My name is Jason Forthofer, and I'm a Fire Behavior Analyst on the Frye Fire. I'm going to talk a little bit about my job today. So the goal of my job really is to predict what the fire is going to do. And the fire, it depends on the weather, the fuels and vegetation that are out there, and the topography. And so I use all that information to predict where the fire is going to go, what kind of fire behavior we're going to see, those types of things. The use of what I do is really my primary, the primary people that I talk with on the fire are the operations people, and so those are the on-the-ground firefighters. Primarily, I'm really talking to them, giving them an idea of where the fire is going to go, so that that can help them determine a plan of how to stop the fire if that's the goal on the fire. Also, one of my most important jobs is to look at the fire behavior aspect of safety for the firefighters, and not put them, hopefully, so they don't put themselves in a bad position in relation to where the fire is going to spread. Some of the other people that I talk with on a fire are the public, so getting a lot of information out to the public about what to expect, where a fire is going to go, if it's going to impact things like houses, that kind of thing. And then we also work with the natural resource people, so looking at what the fire is going to do in the long term to the vegetation, and if that's the goal on the fire, to reduce the impact the fire has on vegetation, how we can manipulate the fire behavior to reduce that. This Frye Fire is a good example of that, where there are several goals on the fire. One of the goals is to really reduce the high intensity fire, the stand replacement fire. And so the fire managers on the ground can do that through different ways, but the information I give them as a fire behavior analyst can really help them determine how they do things like burnouts, where they maybe let the fire burn naturally, where they decide to stop the fire, that type of work. Maybe we can talk a little specifically about this Frye Fire now. Just as an example, the Frye Fire here, you see in the background, a lot of the top edge up here has already been stopped through fire lines, and it also moved into some lighter fuels, and at the nighttime humidities come up, so the air gets moist, and a lot of the fire actually goes out in those light fuels often. And that's what happened here, a combination of firefighters stopping the fire and the fire naturally going out in those light grassy fuels. As you go up the mountain, this is a big mountain right here. There's this desert, lowland desert all around it. As you go up in the mountain, the vegetation changes, and that has a big impact on how the fire spreads, and also how hard it is to stop the fire as a firefighter. So you get up here higher in elevation, and you get into the timber fuels. And so what happens up in the timber fuels is you can have many different kinds of fire behaviors, from fire just smoldering in the litter underneath the fuels, all the way up to what we call a crown fire, which would be fire burning right through the crowns of the trees, flame lengths of 200 or 300 feet sometimes. And so you can get that whole variation of fire behavior, and it all depends on those things I mentioned earlier: the fuels, the weather, and the topography. And so on this fire, we had some areas of stand replacement, high intensity fire, when all those things came into alignment. Other areas, like right now where we're at, the fire is burning at a low intensity, mostly on this side, and it's actually burning from the top of the slope, the top of the mountain, downward. And as it burns downward, it burns much, much slower, maybe 10 to 50 times slower than it would burn if it was burning upslope, right? So if it was, for some reason, lit at the bottom, it would really go up fast. It would kill a lot of the trees. But right now, it's at the top, burning down, and so it's a much lower intensity fire.